Evolution.org, episode 634 is coming your way. Today we're going to be doing an interview with Evo member Wheels85, the true inspiration. So this is going to be a really interesting podcast. You can go check out Wheels85 on the forum. He has a couple logs that he has put up. And the way you can find him on the forum is if you go on the top right search button, you go by member, you simply put in his name, Wheels, Wheels 85, and it will pop up and you can go check his posts out. And then in his post, in his signature, you'll see two of his logs, my training log, and then also my weight loss journey log sponsored by UGL Oz. So those are two of his logs that he has up. So we're going to be talking about his logs on this forum. On this podcast, we're going to be talking about tips and tricks he has up his sleeve to share with everyone else. We're going to talk about his no excuse attitude and overcoming his injuries he had in his past. And it's going to be a really great one. First, let me remind everybody we are on Apple, we are on Spotify. We really appreciate your support. Smash the like button. We really, really would appreciate that. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're leaving comments. That helps the algorithms pick up our podcast. So with that, thank you, Wheels85, for joining the podcast. How you doing this morning? And it's evening your time. You are in Australia, correct?
Yeah, it's 9:30 at the moment, 9:30 p.m. And
Okay.
thanks for having me, Woods.
That's honestly it's still better than Pigsy's 1 o'clock in the morning when we finished
Yeah,
yesterday too. So yeah, past my bedtime if I was where you are. Listen,
yeah, it's getting on
something
there.
we've been doing for these last few shows, Wheels, is thanking the members for coming on. And we're doing that because, especially in the last few months, especially since we started doing these interviews, the growth of the community vibe, the connecting together, it's always been there. Always people being helpful, always people giving out advice. But recently, just these last few months, and especially since these interviews have started, the vibe seems to have grown even more than it has already. And part of that has been some of the new VIPs and new moderators, but even it's going to be people, and I will touch upon this now, but I'll talk about it a little bit later on as well. Having certain individuals come on that have inspired, and this I don't want to blow smoke up your ass too much, but inspired with the no excuses, getting shit done attitude. I don't want to bang the drum too much about the fact you're in your wheelchair because you're not using an excuse, but it inspires everybody else. And the reason for that is quite simple. We've all got shit that happens. There's a bunch of guys that have talked about drug issues and alcohol issues and aches and pains and stuff. I'm an old motherfucker. What's my excuse and so on and so forth. And then Wheels comes on, gets his shit done, with a spinal cord injury in a wheelchair, and you go, what's my fucking? I've got no excuse because Wheels is out there absolutely killing it. And for us, and this comes from me, Stevesmi, the other moderators, the members of the forum, and the bosses of the forum. We just want to thank you for coming on today, being inspirational, and allowing us to sort of look a little bit at your story, put your information out there, and allowing you to get out there on the internet, and hopefully from some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, inspire others. So thank you very much for coming on today.
No, thanks for having me. The pleasure's all mine.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's start with the spinal cord injury history. So can you tell us a little bit about that and what ended up happening with that?
So I was born with mild spina bifida. It's called spina bifida occulta. And the secondary disease that occurred was syringomyelia. And that is when fluid builds up on your spine. And over the course of, I was 27 when I ended up in a wheelchair. So about 3 decades, it pushes on your spinal cord and it slowly damages it over time, and it takes away like certain functions. Like my my first symptom was my foot began to drop. So I'd catch my foot my gait as I was walking. So I'd like fall over randomly. And then the power in my leg went, and then it went to my left leg, and then it kind of just progressed upwards. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
Yeah, I know people who have that foot drop thing. And is that something and is it something to do with the nerves in the legs, or is it something completely from the spinal cord, like doing something with the nerves causing that issue?
You can have it
Yeah,
after a stroke. You can have it after a stroke, Steve. So there's a little bit of neurology as well as obviously the spinal cord there.
Yeah, it's just progressive damage over time as the fluid sits on your spinal cord. The pressure just squishes the axons there, so it
Yeah.
stops sending signals to your legs. So your foot just catches and then it wastes away.
So when this happened, was this something you expected, or is it something that was like a shock? Did the doctors tell you growing up, hey, one day this could end up coming to a head, or is this something that kind of was like a surprise?
So I think MRIs kind of didn't come around until I was about 14. So they first picked it up on an MRI, but as they kind of became clearer, you could see the damage over time. So I didn't know, but they didn't quite know when the symptoms would occur, or obviously they can't give you a timeline on these things. They just kind of progress as they progress. So I knew, but I didn't know, if that makes sense.
Okay. And so basically you're going to be you're not able to walk going forward, or is it something where you can kind of use like a cane to get around, or is it something where you have to be in a wheelchair? Like how would that affect your walking ability?
No, it's like spinal cord damage is like at the moment it's kind of final. When you once it happens, it happens. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of that's it for
Have you
me.
seen have you seen any potential for the future? Because they keep coming
Mm.
up with some amazing modern medicine things. Like we've
Yeah.
seen people. We talked with Pigsy yesterday. He was talking about how they're using kangaroos in Australia for
For
heart.
the heart stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there something perhaps in the future that could come around, do you think, that can help people with spinal issues like yours? Or is this something that, you expect to be in this situation for the rest of your life?
There's definitely progress being made, like with stem cell therapy and
Yeah.
the thing called scaffolding. So it's like a bridge that they plant in your spine, and
Mm.
it will send out kind of like the medicine from there and bridge the gap between the spinal cord injury and the healthy parts of your spine. And there's also talk about chips that bypass the injury site itself and sending this signal straight to your brain. So it's like a bridge. So I definitely think there's going to be progress in the future. Whether it's going to be enough to go from not walking to completely fine in my lifetime, I don't think so. But there will be
Mm.
something to help.
I just had visions of you just slightly tongue in cheeks in some sort of 10 years from now, some sort of exoskeleton. And I think the whole nerve ending axioms, etc., that he touched upon a little bit earlier on is the can we get a signal from A to B when at the minute there's a gap between A and B. So it's kind of bridging or whatever else. And as Steve said, the science understanding the human body, we still don't, for example, completely understand, bearing in mind the forum and what we do on the forum, the whole muscle making, muscle building process is still not completely fully understood, even though we can read or have read all the DNA that human bodies produce in a much quicker time than they said they would. The whole development of peptides and SARMs in the last couple of years, which literally some of those didn't exist 5 or 6 years ago. So technology, including in pharmaceuticals, including in medication, and the ability to do these things as huge. And you even touched upon just now the stem cell thing. So the stuff is out there. I think I probably, and maybe Josh can answer this again for the benefit of the listeners. It's one of those situations, Steve, where you go, can I make the best? And I think Josh does that. Wills does that. Very much makes the best of this situation as is, because you don't have a fucking choice in that regards. But maybe with half an eye on the potential for some, not cure, but a fix, if you like, at some point in the future. Human beings are very adaptive if we have the right attitude. And again, as I said at the beginning of the show, I think that comes across with you in terms of your attitude. It might not be necessarily a comfortable thing to say, "Oh, can we hear about the reason why you're in a wheelchair?" If someone randomly come up to you in the street, that'd be annoying. But discussing it today on this show might help someone else. So um, do you just think to yourself on a daily basis, let's get my fucking shit done, which I think you do, versus, oh, woe is me, let's hope there's a fix in the future? What's your kind of attitude in regard to how you deal with what you've got to deal with?
I, did, I definitely have my days where I think that to myself, like, why? But you've just got to allow yourself, that 30 minutes or whatever you need to process it, and then kind of, well, it just is what it is. So I can either sit here and be pissed off, or I can make the most of it and, you know,
Yeah,
try and improve my situation, and gym is a massive part of, not
that's what
only
I
your
was going
mental
to ask
health,
you,
but
Josh. I was going to ask
yeah.
you that because during COVID, people struggled with not being able to go to the gym, that little social aspect, but also taking control of your day. And I was just going to say to you, go into the gym, any kind of sport, but go into the gym, getting leaner, dropping your body fat, which is part of your journey. That has got to give you an element of look at me fucking kicking ass, taking control of my day, and also help you, as you just said, with your mental health when you're having a struggle day. Help you sort of no, no, fuck this. Look at me down the gym kicking ass. Look at me getting a fucking sweat. Look at me doing my shit, and come away with a positive vibe after training. Surely,
Yeah, well, I think that's you just touched on it there. I think that's a big because you have when you do end up with spinal cord injury, you have aspects of your life that you can't control anymore, and the gym is a way of taking back elements of control about your life and what you can and can't control.
yeah,
And it definitely builds on your mental health. And like you said before, whether it's wheelchair rugby or
yeah,
gym or
yeah.
swimming, whatever it is, like it's just part of taking back control and being positive and having a direction, I guess.
I had a crazy, but this is a little bit graphic. I had a crazy back injury in 2016, sheer wear and tear, worst pain, the longest period of time, and slightly annoying was I'd go for these checkups, trying to get the painkillers sorted out, trying to get rehab, etc., etc. How's your bowels? Excuse me, how's your bowel? Are you having any problems going to the toilet? No, it's perfectly normal, just staggering off towards the cars to have a shit or piss in pain and taking that much longer to get there. But of course, what they meant was when it's really, really, really bad, the inability, well, or should I say, quite the opposite. Your body will go to the toilet when you want it, don't want it to. It goes when it can because the nerve endings in that particular problem. I've trained or coached, should I say, someone who'd had spina bifida and had one of the half their leg removed with that particular issue, which wasn't a problem for us guys. We understood what was going on. And another of his mates was trained with us, both local basketball players. He had MS, and it is what it was. We just fucking dealt with it. They dealt with it. It was something that no one had any fucking control over. So we just, well, fuck it. What can we do? If it was some random fellow with nothing the matter with him, it'd be an issue. But with these two guys, they were getting on with their shit. And so that ability to train and regain control and say, listen, I can't control this, I can't control that. Fuck it, what can I control? And body positive, mentally positive. I love that. I think, and I'll talk about this a little bit now. One of the first people to come on recently was Harley Guy. And we asked him at the end of the show, what's your favorite logs? And yours was the first one that came out. And I was just kind of noticing your post, seeing what you're doing. And a lot of people were saying, he's out there, he's doing chin ups in his wheelchair, he's doing dips in his wheelchair. Uh, Again, as I said earlier on, that inspires people because we all have, as I said before, kind of the shitty days, bills to pay. Oh, I need to get this fucking stuff sorted out. A buddy of mine is supposed to be really keen on going to the gym. I can't go to the gym today because I'm this, I'm that. And you go, no, 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 no. Wheels is fucking doing his shit. He's not fucking about. He's come onto the forum with an aim, which we're helping him with, and he just fucking does it. And I think you're doing that for yourself, obviously, for your mental health, for your physical thing, but you are, without perhaps realizing the impact, giving no one else an excuse for their shitty days, no one else an excuse for being lazy, no one else an excuse for getting stuff done. Guys, I'm going to have to go and answer the door. So if you want to carry on for a second.
Yeah, and I can remember when I used to do endurance athletes, we'd see people with one leg. They'd have one leg, they'd have one arm. They'd be doing these races and they'd be kicking people's asses who were, you know, had four, and I'd always tell these people, I was like, see, look at this. Like, look at how these people are kicking ass, and they're literally running on one leg, and they're still beating you, and you have both your legs. So it's just like it's one of those things where it's like inspiration, you get from seeing people like you pushing yourself. And at the end of the day, look, we all have something that we have to get through. We had one guy we were interviewing who he had to go to the bathroom like 35 times a day. Like we're talking a number 35 times a day. And those are things we just have to overcome, at the end of the day. There's people out there who are deaf, there's people out there who are blind. At the end of the day, that's a nice thing about bodybuilding is that no matter what your,
Yep.
health issue is, you could still weight train, you could still
Yep.
bodybuild, you can still get the most out of it. So what are your thoughts on that, Wheels?
Yeah, I'm definitely aware because I went through the same thing when I about 10 years ago when I first, wanted to get into weights and I YouTubed wheelchair weightlifting and I'm like, okay, so it's definitely doable. So I understand the inspiration part of it because I had that same situation happen to me when I saw other people in my situation or worse doing what I wanted to do. But at the same time, I'm just a dude who wants to get jacked and do everything else that everyone else on the forum wants to do. So I'm aware, but I'm also just trying to be jacked like everyone else.
Yeah. You're not going to the gym going, I'm going to inspire some motherfuckers today. You're going to the gym for the grind.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
inspiration is almost it's a side thing, but it is out there. And maybe there's an element of if you're having a shit day, if you're having a late, no, I've got to go to the gym. People are watching me now. They know what I'm fucking doing. So almost in
There's
a way,
definitely that pressure.
yeah, I do this thing. I can train here at home. Why do I go to my local gym? Because I get my steps in. And if I'm having a shit day, I've got people might be fucking watching me in the gym. I've got to do this. So if I was at home, I might slack off. So there's that whole vibe as well. So there's definitely a little bit out there. Uh, Here he is, Wheels. Come on, in you fucking come, Josh. What are we doing today? We doing legs? No, fuck off. We're not doing legs. That kind of joke, getting stuff out of the way or whatever else. But we're certainly doing upper body. What's your fucking excuse? And so on. So there's a little bit of banter and that little back and forth, and then everybody's in there supporting you, whatever. So I think, yeah, it's not the primary thing, but it's out there. We wanted to make sure that people, like I said, if people don't know who Josh is, who Wills is, and they're in a similar situation, they've got something that's going to end up putting them in a wheelchair or whatever else. It's not the fucking end. It's the beginning of a different kind of fucking journey. And
Hmm.
whether we mean to inspire people or not, you are doing that kind of stuff. I want to ask you a little bit now, as we move along slightly, how you've adapted to doing certain exercises, getting certain things done. I think I see some rowing exercise early in your most recent log where you'd have to put the chair in a certain position. You've had to extend perhaps the cable for the handle, that kind of stuff. So how do you adapt to doing certain exercises because of the restriction with a wheelchair, etc.? Just again for the benefit of those that
Yeah.
might be in a similar
And if you
situation.
check out his logs, I'm looking at
Yep,
the
for
video as
pictures and
well.
videos.
He
Yep,
posts videos, and you can go and check out his videos. And man,
yep.
you got a nice backyard. First of all, I'll say that. I wish I could have a
Yes,
yard like that. You
that's a
like
decent space. Yeah,
yeah, that's like a huge yard, and you're doing these exercises in your backyard using a ball, you're using the tree, you're doing all kinds of using the tire. Just really
yep.
cool stuff that you're doing, taking advantage of the space that you have. So
Let
that's
me let
one.
me list these: tire dragging, tire flipping. He hooks a rubber cable around a tree and does kind of an overhead tricep extension and rowing kind of move. He picks up and drops, and then picks up and presses a ball. And then obviously just the literal moving up and down the yard while he's doing it. It's on grass, which is that little bit harder. And the whole thing's it's really great. And it doesn't even look like the nicest day, Josh. It looks like it might be slightly damp, but he's out there in the yard getting it done and putting that stuff out there for again people to come and watch, like Steve says, and you can see what he's done. But I'm thinking more about the gym stuff, Steve. What's he doing in the gym, and how do do you think about how you're going to set these things up? How does stuff get done? It probably takes a few minutes longer than it might take most people, but you'll still get it done. So just give us a couple of examples of how you've had to adapt exercises for your situation.
Um, to be honest with the gym, because dumbbells and free weights, I don't really have to adapt too much. I just have to pick what I can and can't do and try and navigate around that. So yeah, I can't. Unfortunately, I can't give you um too many hints on that one. But with the cardio stuff, I attached a an old car tire to the back of my chair with a bit of rope, and I used to drag that up and down it was actually a church next door to my house, so I was doing it in the churchyard, and I'd do laps with that, and then I'd attach like a tension rope to the back of the tree, and then just kind of do shadow
Yeah,
boxing there for a certain
yeah.
period, and then just medicine ball stuff with a medicine ball, and just there's always a way to do something. You just have to give it a bit of thought.
I've told a story before, I think, on one of these shows about the fellow with the spina bifida, and he was on his good knee and obviously on the stump in tracky bottoms with a knot tied up for the trouser leg, and I had him flipping a lorry tire, and it was a dry, dusty day in our yard outside the warehouse where the gym was, and I'm screaming at him like a bitch, and people were walking past because of how fucking horrible I was being to this bloke. And look at them screaming at the guy who's on his, got no legs and stuff. That was a slight exaggeration, but that's what they could see. And I sort of replied, going, he fucking loves it. And he's going, yeah, it's great, thumbs up and shit. So there's this whole sort of vibe again about getting stuff done, finding a way to do things, finding a way to do cardio, finding a way to train in the gym. You're probably not even aware that you've made certain adaptations. It's just what you're doing to get your stuff done, whether it's a classic example, Steve, for bench pressing. And you see this in the Paralympics, powerlifting. We used to do this with the spina bifida guy again, is either strap them across the waist onto the bench, or I would literally stand across his hips and press down onto his hips just to stabilize them so he could bench press. I think he worked up to like 90 or 100 kilos. So after a while, you're not thinking about it. You're just there. This is what I do. Extra minute, set up and go. So again, there are ways, like Josh said, he's gone and looked at YouTube videos, he's put stuff out there to look at and been inspired and found ways to do things. I would suggest, if we do have any listeners in this position, check out the videos, check out the photographs that Steve's mentioned earlier on, but also come onto the forum and ask Josh, how do you get this done? How do you get that done? And it'd probably be so sort of, oh, I'll just do this, I'll just do that without thinking about it, without realizing it's become a thing because it's just what he does on a daily basis. It's just what he does when he goes to the gym. We don't always think about what we do, Steve. And we don't really talk about training as much as we perhaps should on these shows. But yeah, adaptation of things, that kind of stuff. I'll talk a little bit now, if that's okay with you, and I don't want to rush us too much. What's your current? This is for the benefit of the listeners again. Regular listener members of the forum will know. But tell us about your aims and targets right now, specifically, I believe, with the fat loss, and how you're going about that. Also, again, with your diet, you varied the diet because of your cardio, calorific output, and then more specifically the PEDs, etc., that you're using. So let's start with why your current log. What's the aim of your current log for the benefit of the listeners?
So I'd say my primary focus is losing my stomach. That's definitely the kind of area I'm focused on confidence wise, especially like having a higher level spinal cord injury. You have what's called a quad belly, so it protrudes anyway, even if you're not overweight. So being overweight, it definitely accentuates that. So that's my main focus, as well as putting on size, obviously, if I can.
So you're using here, it says the last back on Thursday you posted on your log that you started a second log. It says 250 milligrams of Test-E per week, Retruda which is a GLP-1 agonist, and then Winstrol during the last 4 weeks. And you got Aromacin to manage the E2 levels. Any changes since you posted that, or is that what you're rolling with?
No, stack's still the same.
Okay. So the Retruda how do you like it so far? How long have you been on it?
So I think I'm on week 4 now, and it definitely works. It
Hmm.
does what they say it does.
What have you,
Definitely.
what changes have you gotten in those 4 weeks, and what kind of side effects have you noticed? What kind of changes to the appetite? Tell us everything.
Definitely eating a small meal feels like you're trying to stuff down an entire pizza by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, about week two onwards, I definitely noticed that. Um,
Yeah.
I definitely noticed some slimming, especially on the sides of my stomach.
Mm.
But yeah, it definitely works.
How much have you been using?
So I went 1 mil, and then two.
Okay. So, okay, so it comes out to 2 milligrams, I'm assuming, right? 2 milliliters would be milligrams, the way
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
reconstituting it. And then,
Yes.
do you plan on increasing that, or do you just want to stay at two going forward?
No, I definitely think I'll stay at two because it's definitely doing the
Yeah.
job, and I think I'll be uncomfortable with anything higher, stomach
Did,
wise.
did
It's
you have any nausea issues with changing the dose that some people have experienced, or literally you've gone for 1 to 2 and that hasn't been an issue? Because I know that some people have said changing the doses where they saw the issues at the beginning, very first time you use it, and then when they've upped or lowered the dose, just as the body's adapted, they go, "Oh no, I felt a bit off for a day or two," and then it settled down.
I haven't not upping the dose, but the night I used it, I I kind of like woke up feeling like I was going to throw up. But
Yeah.
outside of that, that's the only kind of nausea I've had. It's just been
Mm.
like your stomach just feels full.
Yeah. I think the first 4 or 5 weeks you go through that and then you'll adjust. And the second month you go a little bit through that, and the third month it really starts going away the longer you stay on. It's really interesting the way your body changes, but your metabolism, what I noticed on it is I have to pee more often on it. Do you notice anything like that yet?
No, I haven't noticed the pee thing.
Okay. What
But I
happens is your body has to get rid of those fat cells somehow. So the most
Yeah.
efficient way in a lot of people, it's either through your breath, it's through sweating, or it's through urination. So that's one of the things. Like for me, like my body likes to always, like when I'm fasting, for example, my body likes to always use urination as a way to get rid of those
I,
fat
I, I
cells.
was going to joke that's kind of a fixation of Steve's, but I do believe that there are other people who've experienced it just for shits and giggles. But I
No,
do
it's not
believe that
fun at all because I have to carry around like a bottle if I'm like driving or something. I have to carry around a bottle of
that's what I
sparkling.
was going to say. Just you, Steve. No one else.
No, I kind of
So
got to carry a bottle around with me.
So what's the deal with the 250 milligrams test E? What have you noticed? What
Yes.
changes have you noticed with that?
So I only dropped back to 250 this week after my
Right.
E2 levels kind of went through the roof. Um, definitely, I've noticed I'm holding less water in my legs since I dropped to 250, so that's positive.
What about the libido? Any changes
Yeah,
to the libido?
that kind of went through the roof week two, week three.
Positive. Yeah.
But
Talk about
yeah,
yeah.
no,
Talk about
nothing outside of that.
yep. So talk about so far, your favorite steroids, the steroids that you haven't liked, maybe the
Yeah.
dosing. You like to so, it sounds like you like using testosterone lower than what you had it at originally. Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So this is only my second experience with a
Right.
cycle. So I've had test SIP and test E. And I haven't really noticed a difference between the two, to be honest. The test sip kind of would, because I did it subcutaneously, so it would sit in my stomach and it like big kind of nodules. So I wasn't a fan of that.
You were doing
Yeah.
a sub Q, okay.
The little bubbles under the skin that some people have
Yeah,
had.
little
And
abscesses, yeah.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
so you
Just.
switch, so you're doing it intramuscular and that's a lot better.
Yeah, the experience is so much better.
Okay. And then
There's a bit. Yeah.
you plan on using Winstrol. Is that going to be your first time using Winstrol?
It is, unless the antiviral I was using before was sneaky Winstrol. It's my first experience.
And then the Anavar you used before, how did you end up liking it? Did you get good results on it, or were you like, it's not really worth it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay.
To be honest, yeah, it was good. The pumps, post gym pumps were great.
Were you
Yeah,
getting a lot of
definitely.
strength increases on it, or more just the pumps?
Definitely my strength increased. I'd say
Hmm.
more than the test did anything for me. Whether the test was good, I don't know. But yeah, my size didn't go up too much, but my strength did.
I was going to ask you because you've mentioned a couple of times in regards to the Anavar and the test, etc. We mentioned this with Pigsy yesterday, and I said to Pigsy, and again for the benefit of the listeners, it was one of those asking Pigsy to explain the Australian market and PED specifically, And I said that it was like the US situation 5, 10, 15 years ago, in that it can be a struggle to get hold of legitimate products that are properly dosed and are what they say on the tin, as it were. So, for example, we've just heard Josh say, if it was Anavar, if it was accurately dosed testosterone, because of the nature of getting products into Australia, because of the way that those products are distributed across Australia, there's a little bit of what can I get hold of. Having people, as we do on the forums, that can supply you with legitimate products that are properly dosed is super important. And we've all had that one or two experiences where products haven't been properly dosed, if at all, or haven't been Winstrol and have been in a vote, or vice versa. So yeah, that's more of a problem for the Australian sector. Again, it's because the majority of our audience will be American, some British, some Australian, some Canadian, but it's the majority is American. It's that weird situation of they don't always get what they should. And so again, Josh is touching upon the fact that, products might feel like they're working, but are they what they're supposed to be? And you want the right product for your situation to help you get cut, to gain, to be stronger or whatever else. And that can be a problem. I want to ask you a bit, Josh, because it's one of the things that stood out for me, and I actually put it in my show notes as well, reading through your log the other day. You aren't consuming anywhere close to the normal amount of calories. And this is specifically because you aren't typically burning the normal amount of calories. The number, I think, off the top of my head was 1,300 calories per day. Now, most people walking, talking, 2,000 calories a day or less would be a diet, but you're on 1,300 calories a day. So you've not just adapted your training and your lifestyle to suit your situation, but you're deliberately only consuming 1,300 calories a day because, as you say, you're not burning that many more calories. So talk a little. I mean, it's actually one of the things I noticed just before the show, Josh, was Lev was trying to get you to take a bit more carbs or a bit more protein, one or the other. And you was like, how can I squeeze that in? Because I'm up against the buffer with the amount of calories. So talk a little bit about how you've had to adapt the diet and the reasons why you're only on 1,300 calories a day.
Yeah, I'm only small as well. Like I've got my spinal cord injury, but I'm also short. I'm only 5'3" or 4, 160 centimeters, whatever that
Okay.
is in feet. But so not only do I have the spinal cord injury, I have the size limiting the amount of calories I'm going to burn just at stasis.
Yeah.
So, and when I first got into the chair, I packed on weight just because you're not used to sitting all the time, and
Yeah.
so you just think you can eat the same calories you always did, but you just can't. It's just how it
No.
is. So it's definitely it's a it's a race between trying to get the protein levels I need in to grow
Yeah.
and trying not to get too many calories in where I'm going to put on weight. So
On the
it's a balancing act.
on one of the other shows, we talked about as Steve just mentioned, Crohn's and colitis with David Williams and one of our more recent interviews. And I said that those guys have gone through certain periods of eating certain things. So for you, it's going to be protein dense or energy dense, but it can't exceed a certain number. Give the listeners a brief sort of just yesterday, for example. What did you have to eat yesterday? How did that affect your body? Just as an example.
So I try and keep each meal to about 400 calories. So breakfast 400 calories, lunch the same, dinner the same. But since I joined and had the other members trying to push me a little bit, I'm adding in like a yogurt
Yeah,
with a scoop of protein as well and some blueberries. But
yeah,
so for breakfast, I'll typically have 3 scrambled eggs with a bit of wholemeal protein bread and some cottage cheese and a coffee. So that's about 400 calories. For lunch, I'll typically have some chicken or some salmon with some veggies added in. And then for dinner, I'll have some form of red meat. Or if I didn't have chicken or fish for lunch, I'll have that with veggies again, and then the yogurt and the protein.
I'm thinking that you have to, because of the restriction, everything has to be functional, everything has to be on point. There's almost no leeway in the diet, 100 calories here or 100 calories there because of the output versus input. So everything needs to be used by your body, utilized by your body, and getting you to where you need to be in a far more restricted way than perhaps other people, myself, for example. Do you have any refeed days? Is there any occasional treats that Josh squeezes in on one day a week or anything like that? Perhaps that we could salivate over.
If mum cooks a good dinner, yeah, I'm gonna hold to that and worry about it tomorrow.
Yeah,
But
I was joking.
there's no
Yeah, go
chocolates
on.
or anything
Yeah,
like that. If I want to get this done, I've got to stick on point. Otherwise, it becomes habit forming for me, and I'll go back to doing that.
something that we've seen that's very common in the most successful gains, losses, targeted aimed logs, etc., is food prep. Do you food prep?
I do. Um, like just basic chicken, basic kind of like lately I've been having kangaroo, or I'll cook up a lamb chop with veggies. It's just very simple proteins with veggie. It's always veggies because it's just
Hmm.
super easy. But yeah, just basic meal prep, nothing fancy. Some salmon
That's
I'll do.
yeah, one of the issues we've actually seen, and that's probably me sounding like an old miserable git, is that certain younger generation not eating their veggies. I don't like greens. I don't like peas. This kind of bullshit. And I do like to hear that you are actually getting your fucking veggies in and eating. Doesn't have to be fancy. It can be straightforward. And again, as I said before, meal prepping, amongst other aspects, is one of those key things in that when Josh goes to the fridge or the freezer, their food is there and it's ready. And it seems to be one of those key things that Steve and I have noticed on the logs. And when we've done these shows, we talked about these things, you're more likely to be successful in what you're doing if the diet is controlled in this way and you have no excuses. Who was it, Steve, recently said they have no junk food in the house? And I said, I've done that in the past.
Hmm.
If I wanted junk food, I had to go and get it.
Yeah, I
So
don't
if you've
allow it. I don't allow it.
no,
Mm-mm.
no. You just having juices, just having water, just having chicken breast. Do you have this? Let's give us a little food tip. One of the things I talk about is for the chicken stuff, spices and herbs. Is there anything little thing that you might do, Josh, that you probably don't think about, just to make simple food flavoursome, a little bit interesting when perhaps it might be otherwise be a bit boring? One thing that perhaps you do in that regards, just for yourself.
I'm a big sriracha fan. I love my hot sauces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that, mate. I
No,
can't.
big chili and hot sauce fan.
Oh, fuck that shit. Fuck that, mate. Honestly. We had one, I think, the members the other day, and they were massive on sushi, and they could put away. They said, I think they said if they go for one of those all you can eat buffets at a sushi restaurant, they're all in. Let's go, sort of thing. And they put there was
Oh
two or
yeah,
three plates. Yeah,
yeah, I can do the same. Big sushi fan.
yeah. Apart from the spice, any treats you said not chocolate and not sweets, but anything sort of that kind of like I said earlier, do you do a refeed day once a week? Or as you say, when you go to your mum's, just put that down, and in the morning, just eat slightly less calories the next day or whatever else.
Pizza maybe. Mum makes a homemade pizza that I really like. I'm
Mm.
just my big thing is staying up late and like getting tired. And when you're tired, you kind of hunger for that sugary kind of thing. So I'll eat sugar
Yes,
then. But outside of
yes.
that, I'm not a big chocolate eater or anything like that. So I'm very lucky that way.
What's interesting
And
with
that's
me is, I like to have some fruit. I've always had some fruit before bed and some citrus or something like that. And what's really interesting with that is I swear it helps me wake up like even more with a flat stomach. So that might be something if you have those cravings for, something sugar, have some fruit, some fresh fruit that might really work in your favor on that one because it's good way to get minerals and vitamins before bed, and you'll kind of detox yourself. So that might be something you could try.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
definitely ways to get that sugar in you without it being
know.
refined or processed, right?
So I mean, speaking of that, like, tell us a little bit about living in Australia, like, because the other day, you said there was some bad weather, right?
Yeah, it actually didn't eventuate to be too much where I live anyway. It was just a bit of small hail
So is
and
there like a
lightning.
lot of crazy weather going on there, or is that pretty normal for where you live?
Yeah, summer season definitely gets crazy, especially I live in Queensland, which is like the tropic kind of area of
Hmm.
Australia. So you get a lot of thunderstorms and monsoonal kind of weather.
So
Pixie
okay.
brain. Higgsy blamed Kingsland for giving him shit with the other day. So apparently it's your fault, Josh.
I'll take the blame.
I think if let me, I my little bit. I mean, Stevesmi was asking Pigsy yesterday about kangaroos and the problems on the
Mm.
vineyard and stuff, and Pigsy was explaining some of the nature. And again, this is one of those a thing for the American audience, which, as I said earlier on, is the majority here. So talk a tiny bit. Again, you live there, you probably might not think about this. A little bit about the lifestyle. One of the things that Stevesmi and I have mentioned, we think, seen on the Aussie section of the forum, the outside lifestyle, the spaces, the amazing scenery and stuff that you have in Australia seems to us, just looking in from the outside, from the UK, from America, to almost encourage people like yourself, the Australian members, to be on average, Steve, in better shape. There's a of the Australian members, there's a very high proportion of guys that have got serious amounts of muscle, serious amounts of conditioning, much higher proportionately than the Brit members, the Canadian members, and the American members. Don't you think so, Steve? Is it the lifestyle of the culture? Is a little bit of that reflect on you as well, or Josh, in just the way that because the nature of you living in Australia, the space and whatever that you have out there, including in Queensland?
Yeah, I think that plays a huge part. I've been to the UK and I definitely noticed just your regular people kind of walking around, there's a huge difference in your general kind
Yes.
of physique. But
Just made,
even growing
I
up,
think, yeah, Steve, you was going to say, I was going to touch on this for Steve. When I go back to London, more so than here in the valleys of South Wales, and certainly in America, Steve's mentioned many times, the obesity is fucked up. I think we don't, there are photographs from the 50s, Steve, of some American beach, and you can't see a single fat bastard in the photograph, not one. And then you take a picture of a beach in the UK or the US, and half the people on the beach or more are
Yeah.
overweight.
I'd say 90% of middle-aged men in the United States are overweight today.
Australia is the other way around. I think it's like maybe 20 or 30%, 80%,
Yeah.
70 and 80% are in shape. And that's just normal, average, walking up and down Joes and Janes.
Yeah.
So
Well,
again,
yeah. The food quality is what makes a difference. Like if someone from Australia were to come to America and immigrate,
yeah,
and within a couple years they would get fat on the same exact diet just because the food quality is so bad. Like anything, you could take ice cream in Australia, the same ice cream in Australia compared to America is like healthy. It'd be the healthiest thing an American ate. So our food quality is so bad. I don't think people in Australia appreciate that, like how good your food quality is. It's because your government actually has an incentive to have the food quality be healthy. They don't allow bad stuff. So that's the big difference for sure. So trust me, you're gonna like shred up in no time. You're gonna shred up as just making these little changes to your diet. So like, do you
yeah.
see yourself over the next year tightening up your diet even more? Are you gonna be implementing some more things like more fasting, fasted cardio, stuff like that to kind of get as lean as possible? Like, what are your end goals here?
my end goal is definitely, as we mentioned earlier, just getting that stomach going. And then after that, I kind of want to focus on the areas that, like my chest, due to my spinal cord injury, I'm kind of missing chunks. So just kind of filling in the areas that I'm missing and to making the most of that. And then putting on size after I kind of lose weight. That's the end goal.
I'm envisioning some sort of six pack, wide shouldered motherfucker. I've seen these wheelchair athletes at the Mr. Olympia competition, and there's some crazy fucking physiques out there with the six
Oh
packs
man,
going to the ones. Yeah, that would be great.
We
I
had a
mean,
guy. We had a
I was
guy
going
from
to ask
Australia.
you, yeah,
I
go
say
on.
we had a guy from Australia who was also a wheelchair athlete. We haven't seen him very much lately, but he has a couple logs too on the forum. I don't know if you've seen him, Wheels.
yeah, I have. I went through his whole log actually.
Oh
Guy's
yeah, yeah.
huge.
He's jacked for sure. Like he is incredibly jacked. So definitely that's something to shoot for sure. There's no reason why you can't definitely get there.
I've seen some of those Mr. Olympia wheelchair athletes, and they're just as big as the regular guys from the waist up. Very
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
impressive.
absolutely, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about some tips for our listeners? What does Wheels do? And it doesn't have to be because of the spinal cord injury. What part? Obviously, starting a journey, having a target, etc., etc. So Give us some sort of how you decided to do what you're going to do, and the tips that have allowed you to make the progress you've made to date, and hopefully will make you better and more progressive in the future. Just give us a few Wheels tips to the listeners, talking about a fat loss journey, weight loss journey. That's what's helped you so far.
I think allowing yourself to make mistakes is a big thing. Look,
Yeah,
not okay. So I stuffed up yesterday. That's it. I might as well quit. So allow yourself to make mistakes and just it's okay to start again the next day.
yeah.
Um, but just there's like we'll eat blueberries, fruits. If you like want some sugar, they'll those are very easy ways to get in those sugary kind of. But allow yourself a treat if you do do some extra cardio. You can get in that treat still. Allow yourself a cheat day. That's fine. It's not the world's not going to end. Just be kind to yourself. I think that's my main
How do
takeaway.
you've been a busy guy? Something that I put this in my show notes, and Harley Guy actually brought this up. He said he noticed how helpful you've been to family members. I made a note here. Took a family member to the airport at 3 a.m. And then Harley Guy again also said, he says, what a great dad Wheels is. You have sole custody of your son, and you, unlike some parents, perfectly capable of walking, etc., etc. You make sure you're there in the morning to put your son on the bus. It's not one of those get him dressed, push him out the house. You do that kind of stuff as well. So with the Wheels, Josh has the same stuff to deal with that everybody else does. But what about finding the time, that consistently finding the time to get to the gym? How do you make sure that you get that stuff done on a daily basis?
I'm very lucky. I have very helpful parents, and since my partner passed away, they've been. I couldn't imagine doing all this without them. So they're big helps in allowing me to do the things that I love doing and still getting in that time for myself. So big shout
If
out to
you
my
want to,
parents.
yeah, I'll give you the opportunity now, mate, if you want to, just in case they listen to this show. Do you want to thank them for that right now?
They know I tell them every day, but big shout out to my parents. Love you guys.
What about the whole coming on Evo? Has that helped you in any particular way, whether it's sourcing product, members giving you advice? Talk about the whole community vibe. I think one of the things that Steve asked and Pigsy was able to respond to yesterday, he said that in the past, and we've seen this 10, 15 years ago elsewhere, forums could be a fucking zoo. Products would come and go, sources would come and go, people would get ripped off. Reddit is a cesspit for information sometimes, too much information. What's the difference that Evo and being part of that community has made to you?
It's been huge. I just think the positivity is since that first day I joined, people just more than willing to help and go above and beyond and send me messages offering
Yeah,
to help without me even asking. Not, I don't want to leave anyone out, but like Harley guy, especially when I first joined, he's above and
yeah,
beyond trying to help me, sending me messages about us, like how to do my Reddit. People sending me websites on how to pin the safe ways, how to
yeah,
do it. It's
yeah.
yeah, it's been massive. I can't say enough positive things about it.
I've been very lucky that we've done recent shows, and we said, and I'll ask you this as well. We said, is there any logs that catch your eye? And two or three people have said my log, and I don't know if they're blowing smoke up their ass or they genuinely come and see the fucking silly weights that I'm moving and whatever else. And don't always appreciate in my own particular way, being quite self motivated, the outside support. But at the same time, I'm absolutely blown away now, as I said earlier, with the growth in the community and the support aspect that the Evo has done, especially in recent last 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And with people like Harley Guy coming on, Pigsy, etc., on the Oz forum and in the general forum. So that for me has been huge. I love the fact that the guys have been helping you and contacting you and DMing you and pointing you in the right direction for certain things that hopefully will help you. Has there been any, apart from obviously Holly, you've just mentioned, has anybody on the forum or any logs or anything that makes you want to get your shit done because you've read what they're doing? Or even, as I said earlier, that almost expectation of you getting your shit done because the guys have helped you. Is there anything that's grabbed your attention when you come onto the forum and made you sort of sit up a little bit and whatever else?
Unfortunately, I don't really get the time to go through logs like I'd like to.
Mm,
That, as we mentioned before, the previous guy that was in a wheelchair on the site, he was a big okay. Well, he's
yep,
massive. That's something to shoot for. There's a
yep,
van life guy. I've read a bit of his logs.
yes,
Um, Lev has been a big help.
yep.
Yeah, just a whole bunch of guys have just been offering me assistance. I just can't. Yeah, it's been, as you guys know, there's a lot of egos when it comes to bodybuilding sometimes. As
Hmm.
I think,
Absolutely.
don't know about your website, but I've experienced it on other sites where people just kind of, you figure it out by yourself. I've had to do that, but it's been the total opposite on this site.
Yeah,
It's
and,
been
and
awesome.
that's that's a credit to me, that's a credit to Mobster, it's a credit to the other moderators who've built the forum from the ground up over time, because these other forums, it's funny, like these people, they're just like assholes. Like someone will go in there who's new and ask a
Yes,
question, and they're like, "Get out of
yes,
here." And it's funny because they
yeah.
don't have their own pictures on the forum. Like they'll have an avatar with like
It's
some,
too common, too common.
yeah, they'll have an
Yeah,
avatar
exactly.
of boobs or something, or an
Yeah, or
avatar of
Mickey
some of,
Mouse.
of
Yeah.
Arnold with a cigar in his mouth. It's just hilarious. They don't even pick pictures of themselves, but they have the audacity to put people down who are just simply asking questions. So that's the difference with
It was
Evo.
almost if you had to become a member of the fucking club or go for some initiation to be accepted by the guys. Silly little example here, guys. And I say this to some of the guys, especially newer log members, whatever on the forum, where people will take their own photograph at the gym and it's listen, everybody's different. You do your own fucking thing, right? But I don't understand why people can't just ask someone at the gym to take a picture of them. Just why don't you just go and ask someone? Oh, how do you get a spot, Mobster? Well, I just say, can you give me a spot? For me, and it might be my personality, it's no issue for me to approach someone in a gym, assuming that I feel that they'll be comfortable with me talking to them, and just say, can you hold this camera for me for a minute and just do a couple of photographs? That'd be great. Or could you just help me with a spot? And because obviously I'll do the same in return. And yet, obviously, because social media makes it bad in that way. People sometimes very sort of insular. I go to the gym, I get my shit done, I leave, I don't talk to no fucker. Okay, fine, that's what you do. But then you're losing out. The community aspect vis-a-vis Evo is the opposite. We're not a closed shop. You're not part of the gang. You don't have to sort of a gun to some initiation. You come on and we'll help you straight the fuck away. You'll accept you straight away. What can we do to make your journey successful? And I think that's something that was always there, but even more so in regards to, as Josh just said, with the DMs, people being inspired, mentioning what he's doing, his journey, motivating them, and so on and so forth. It was very much even on the big UK forum, Steve, and I still see this on some of the groups and stuff that we've mentioned already. If you weren't part of that in group, if you weren't part of the sort of original community, who the fuck are you? We don't want to talk to you. You're newbie. What the fuck? You all started somewhere. You all started new. You weren't fuck. You didn't come out of the fucking room with a six pack and biceps. You had to go to the gym and some fucker had to show you. I remember, and I'm sure that you guys appreciate this, being shown the ropes. I trained for years at home, but people supported me when I went to the actual fucking gym. A couple of conversations, and then you're one of the guys. This happens much, much quicker in evolutionary. We want, I've said this on shows that we've done when we talked about products and PDs, etc. We want you to be successful. We want you to be inspirational. We want you to have a six pack. We want you to be leaner, sexier, more attractive to women, whatever. We want that to happen because it's good for us, but it also makes us fucking feel good because we've helped you get better. We've helped you grow. So yeah, absolutely. Steve, any questions that you want to ask before we finish the show off with Josh?
Yeah, my question is, how did you find the Evo forum originally? And what drew
So,
you in when you first started going on there? Was it like you said, everybody's friendly and open?
so I had a very bad experience with my last cycle. I'm 90% sure the gear was bunk. So I was Googling the name of the brand. I won't say the name of the brand, just but I was Googling X brand fake gear. And it actually led to me to the Evo site, and someone had the same question as mine on the Evo site. So I then posed the question on the site, and then after that, it was just the vibes that kind of kept me sticking around. And then people asked me to post photos, and they wanted help with my diet, and it
Yeah.
just steamrolled to where we are today.
I mean, one of the things on
Perfect.
the
Yep.
PED, so on the PED thing that Josh has just mentioned, there's a bit of a Wild West vibe occasionally. It's a lot better than it used to be in the Oz section, and it's very reflective of the American thing 15, 20 years ago. I've touched upon the muscle media guys, Romano et al., going across the border and paying $120 and not being entirely sure that the vial of testosterone that they bought was legit. And because of the nature of the Oz market, you want solid sources because some sources have been great to begin with. Then they got lazy. Then they just put what the fuck in. Then they go off and do stupid shit like normal people sometimes do. And the product goes out, it's got no testosterone in it, or it's got a bacterial thing or whatever else. They could start off awesome and actually be motivated to try and sell you guys good product. Then over time, the money becomes great. They start cutting corners. They get lazy, and sometimes they get mugged off with product raws that come into Australia that are shipped for them, and it fucks stuff up. But in the long term, and this is another thing that we do on Evo for the benefit of the listeners, we have logs like Wheels' log, and you can see the products that Wheels is using. You can say, like Wheels did, what's the lab? What's the supplier? Is the name of the supplier? If someone like Wheels is running that lab's product and you see Wheels get into shape, you see Wheels getting leaner, and it won't be the only person using that product. There'll be 2 or 3 other logs, perhaps, from that same source. They're all getting into shape. They're all looking better. They're all growing. They're all getting stronger. Well, then it starts to make you feel that that's a solid fucking source and a solid product that's properly dosed. Then you've got, and we've actually seen this in your section, Steve, people testing products. Oh, listen, you guys are bigging this lab up. I thought it might be bullshit. I've paid for my own fucking test. And the test has come back and it's been 100% on point. That's made me a believer. I'm going to buy that product. But as I said, it's been a little tiny bit, I'd say 7, 8 years ago, way worse. But the last couple of years, especially with people like Pigsy, etc., on board, working with suppliers, he created a sort of template for them to sort of, you have to do this, this, and this before you'll be approved. We need to see tests coming back from your products. You can't let people down. And that kind of stuff for Wheels, for example, it draws you in, keeps you there. And it's not just being able to source the good material for recommendations and sources, but it's having the solid information and the support and the DMs and everything else to back that up. So it's absolutely sort of that whole situation. I want to finish the show again, Steve, with the whole thing that I started the show off with. And again, this is not necessarily just for Wills's benefit, but for the benefit of the listener. Okay. We've all got grind. We've all got fucking bills. We've all got fucking excuses. There's a million things, social media and God knows as well, to distract us. We've also sometimes as well you've got people that support you. So if you're trying to change your life, if you are trying to become a leaner, sexier, more muscular, stronger version of yourself, you don't have any excuse. If you got spinal cord issues like Will's has, and you still get your shit done, you come on and you get great advice, and you see the changes and the transformations in your body. You see that your obliques are shrinking down. You see that the abs are starting to come through. You see that your stomach is reducing. There you go. It's just that it gets out there, no excuses, little bit of support, gets his shit done, and improves his fucking life. And then without necessarily realizing it, and maybe even not the number 1 or number 2 reason, might be number 10 reason. Your other people are inspired because they don't have an excuse. Just being consistent and going to the gym, having the right fucking food in the cupboard, the larder, and the freezer, and getting stuff done, Josh, has absolutely made you, whether you realize it or not, and I know I've said this already, something of an inspiration to the other readers and listeners. I would like people to listen to this show in the same way that we've listened to the shows when the guys are recovering alcoholics, recovering drug addicts. Those have actually ended up being some of our most popular shows. We put out solid information on Dynabo and Anavar and whatever else. But the ones where people have transformed their lives seem to have garnered the most attention and the best kind of feedback. I think today's show with Josh would be one of those kind of shows, Steve. So, yeah. Any final thoughts before I go into the disclaimer?
Yeah, if I can, I'd just like to give a big shout out to UGL Oz, Pigsy, AJ, and Gainsman for giving
Yep.
me the opportunity, and everyone else on the forum who's been super helpful, giving me advice, whether it be diet, PEDs, training, and just
Yep.
everything else in between. So, yeah, cheers, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Any thoughts, Steve, before we leave?
Yeah, we just want to say really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know you're really busy, especially,
Yep.
being a father and the time zone difference. So I think it's like what,
Yes.
13, 14-hour time difference. So
I'm
really
past 10
appreciate
now.
you taking the time to come on, and we're very inspired by you, and I have all the confidence that, a year from now you're going to look back and be like,
Oh,
wow,
mate. Yes,
look where I
absolutely.
was. And then a year after that, you look back again and be like, wow, look where I was. It's just going to keep rolling. You're getting some great advice. And the Aussie guys on the
Yes.
forum really, really love you. And so
Yep.
do the Americans, and so do the Brits, and so do the
Yep.
Canadians. So keep up the good work for sure.
Thank
Thanks,
you
guys. The
again, John.
feeling's mutual. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Please note,
Thank you.
we are not doctors and your opinions are ours. It is our view and based on our experience and views on the topic. A podcast are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.